Take up your cross and follow me, says Jesus. It is not one of the nicer, easier, gentler things he says, and it has gotten so heavily encrusted with, I don't know, interpretations and thoughts over the past 2,000 years. It is hard to know what that even means. Take up your cross and follow me. Which cross? How do we take it up? It's hard. Jesus teaches that there will be suffering and rejection and death, and also resurrection. But most of us, Peter included, here there will be suffering and rejection and death. And we are invited. This is the project. Come and follow me. And Peter, like many of us, says, no, thank you. That sounds like a terrible idea. In fact, you shouldn't even be saying these things, Jesus. I get it. Like Peter, it is so tempting to get out in front of Jesus, to explain, to soften, to make things not so bad, to try and make a better Jesus than the Jesus that invites us to suffering and rejection and death. To come up with a better plan than God's plan. And I think this is sort of at the heart of James's warning to those who dare to teach. It is dangerous to try and put yourself out in front of God. Who do you say that I am? Jesus asks. Who do we say that Jesus is? In Matthew's gospel, when Peter answers the Messiah, the Christ, he gets great acclamation, promises that the whole church will be built on him. But in this one, Jesus just says, don't tell anyone. There's not even a gold star for Peter before he gets accused of being Satan. And this Satan idea, this idea of temptation and an adversarial relationship with love, perhaps it is just the temptation to make Jesus into the image of someone who will agree with us, who will not challenge us, who will comfort us and never ask us to step out into the world of suffering, rejection, or death. It is a huge temptation to make Jesus safe and nice. The temptation that Jesus has to struggle with in the desert is the same one that he encounters here. Get behind me, Satan, he says. And it sounds so harsh, and I feel so bad for Peter. But on further reading, he actually tells everyone to get behind him. Not just Satan, but each and every one of us, because we cannot be out front of someone we are following. We must be in the right order and following behind Jesus. We all need to get behind him, take up our crosses and follow. This cross is not just death and suffering and rejection. The cross is God's choosing of compassion over retaliation. The cross is love at the heart of the world's brokenness. The cross is the only possible end of living in a world addicted to violence with your heart wide open. The cross is the conclusion and the culmination of everything that Jesus does and says and is. The cross becomes this turning point in the whole universe. The cross is where God's love and the world's rage meet. The cross is where death itself dies. The cross is the most human response possible to the love of God poured out. The cross is God's work of defeating death. The cross is love's work of freedom and liberation. The cross is like a floodlight, blinding us and showing every little thing we kept in the shadows, in the clear light of love. All of our insecurities and motives and angers lit up and seen as they truly are. The cross is the ultimate tool of death that in the hands of love destroys death itself. because it turns out that in the hands of love, nothing is irredeemable. And of course, it is terrifying to follow Jesus. It is terrifying to follow someone who is heading to the cross and inviting you to join in every step of that journey. Who do you say that I am? Jesus asks. And we can only know if we are looking. And it is hard to look at someone that you have your back to. Jesus takes up this cross and hoists the power of death onto his shoulders, and in doing so, it is transformed. With the burden of death on his back, he walks with love. And even Satan is invited to become a follower. Even the parts of us that want to run and hide, to make things safe and easy, those parts are invited to follow. The scared parts are invited, the angry parts are invited. The lonely and sad and tired parts are invited to come and follow. The frustrated and the checked out are invited to follow. We're invited to hoist up the things that death has tried to kill love with, because those we know can actually destroy death. Who do we say that Jesus is as we follow along behind him? Suffering and rejection and death, yes, but also resurrection and life and love. So take up the cross and follow. Amen.